Thank you. In 2002, I was working as a model supervisor on the Matrix sequels, and my colleague Jamie Hyneman called me up, and he said that Discovery Channel had called him and asked him if he would be interested in hosting a show called MythBusters. Or Cazadores de Mitos, yes? And he said, I had worked for Jamie in the early 90s, but I wasn't working for him at the time, but he said, well, I don't really think I could host a television show on my own, but maybe together we could do it. Could you help me shoot a demo reel? I didn't know what a demo reel was or what it looked like, but Jamie called me at this perfect moment in my life when I had just bought the first Apple PowerBook devoted to digital video editing, the Pismo, and I bought a digital video camera for editing, and I was teaching myself the rudiments of digital filmmaking. So I brought this equipment to Jamie's shop, and we put together a demo reel in about 2 hours, and we sent it off to Discovery. They liked it so much, they showed up 3 weeks later with a small camera crew, and over 6 weeks in the summer of 2002, we shot the first 3 episodes of what would become MythBusters. Those 3 episodes aired in January of 2003, and the show was an immediate hit. They ordered 13 episodes, we started producing them immediately, and the ratings kept getting higher and higher. The following year, they wanted 20 episodes. So we called up several colleagues of ours, and we expanded the MythBuster base to Grant Imahara, Tori Beleche, and Carrie Byron. Over 13 years, we made almost 300 hours of television. We tested over 1,000 myths, destroyed almost 300 vehicles, 900 explosions featuring 12 tons of explosives, and we used 83 miles of duct tape. Now, in the early days, we were doing mostly things which people called urban legends. Things like, do goldfish truly have a memory of only 3 seconds? The answer is no, they can be trained. Or does a penny thrown from the top of a tall building gain enough terminal velocity to hit you when it gets to the ground? The answer is no. But we felt like we were having trouble finding more material in the early days of MythBusters until, my other favorite one in the early days was, could the Anglin brothers and Frank Morris have escaped from Alcatraz Island in a boat made from raincoats? The answer is yes. But after we had exhausted all of the books of urban legends that we could find, we strained a little bit in those first couple of years to find material until YouTube showed up. YouTube provided us this rich mine of incredible material, wonderfully bizarre videos with extremely testable phenomenon. Now, one of my all-time favorites is this one from a Japanese commercial. A person is firing a raw shrimp through a fireball and through eggs and through breadcrumbs to make a fried shrimp at the end, and we went to great lengths to try and do it. We failed. Our first viral video was Mentos and soda. But today I wanted to talk to you about a viral video we tested that sort of typifies the MythBusters approach to science, to engineering, and to innovation. We didn't know how to make a science show when we first got started. But the show grew up around Jamie and my, and Carrie, Grant, and Tori's curiosity. We followed our noses where we were interested. And so in 2010, a video went viral. In 2010, this video went viral. 2 people pouring water on a slide. A guy gets on the slide. He starts to go down it. Wait a minute, there's a ramp at the end. Holy crap. And he flies, whoa, 30 meters through the air into a pool. Now, everybody in the world sent me this video and said that I should test it. But I wasn't so sure. It looked dangerous. In fact, it looked lethal. There was no way I was going to try this out. But it did raise an interesting and testable question. Could you build a slide, and if you did, would you fly off of it consistently enough to actually place a target that you would hit? And I started to think, well, how would I hit that target? Well, the target is just a target. I could do it in a safe way if I did it on water. And when MythBusters filmed on water, we usually filmed at this abandoned quarry lake up in Gold Country, California, called Pit 232. And I remembered Pit 232 and that it had sloped sides, and maybe one of those slopes was big enough for our experiment. So we inspected the site, we looked at the photographs and tried to match the angles, and we we chose this location, and here we are at the end of the first day of construction. We've laid down 2 sheets of plywood, we built the ramp out of some pine boards, and we're slowly moving all the way up. I think it's about, okay, I've got to do the metric in my head, 60 meters from the top to the bottom. After the plywood, we laid in oil booms, hemp oil booms on the sides, and that was to hopefully keep us on the slide as we went down. The last thing we wanted was to be halfway down the ramp and then we hit the grass and start tumbling all the way to the water. We covered the ramp with carpet, so we had a little bit of a softer ride. Here I am, that's my shadow at the top of the ramp on the end of the first day. Check out Jamie at the top. He looks very majestic all the way at the top of the slide there. And then we covered it with a slippery vinyl surface. Now, when you're going to do something like this, you've got to call your insurance company and tell them what you want to do. And luckily, we had a wonderful guy named Nick Plauché, who's a third-generation Hollywood stuntman, and he was a former stunt director for both the show Jackass and Fear Factor. So he had a lot of experience convincing insurance companies to insure weird stuff. And the agreement that we came up with the insurance company was that I wasn't going to slide from the top right away. I was going to slide from the middle, and we'd see how safe that was. Then if that was good, I'd slide from 3/4. And based on how we felt about that, we would continue. Unfortunately, it turned out that the most dangerous launch was, in fact, the first one, because I fell right off the end of the ramp. And I'm spoiling the end because it'll help you understand what you see in the video. Here is my very first launch. I pour some soap onto the ramp, and then I unceremoniously jump. And fall right off the end of the ramp. My crew was really freaked out. Sometimes in these videos, you can hear a bump bump at the end. That's me telling my crew I'm okay. So the second launch was from 3/4 of the way up. And here I am, soaping myself down, pouring a little water. Now, Jamie and I had a disagreement about how much water to put on the ramp, and I was wrong in this. I put too much water on the ramp. And what happens when you put too much water on the ramp is it slows you down, but it also starts giving you this really unpleasant wedgie here. And I was super uncomfortable, and by the time I left, I was absolutely not in great shape. Yeah, here is that launch. Just to continue the humiliation, I'm going to show you another angle on this. Now, there's something actually that's really interesting that's happening here, and I'm going to show you one more close-up to talk about it. When Jamie and I, all of us hosts, we're our own test subjects, and we tried to set these things up so that almost anyone could do them safely. But even still, in the middle of something like this, I'm asking my body to remember a lot. I'm asking it to do a lot. And in this shot, I want to show you, there we go. Here I am leaving the ramp. I'm super uncomfortable. I'm clocking counterclockwise, and you can see my legs are going all over the place. But right around here, I have enough time in midair to start to realize I got to get my ankles together. I got to get my hands together, because if I'm going to have any chance of landing well, I need to be in a straight line. So this is my body actually remembering what it needs to do. It's not graceful, but I'm proud of it. Yeah. Oh, by the way, when you land in water from this distance, it hurts immediately. So, everything was going well, and we decided it's time for the third launch. Oh, sorry, I'm actually going wrong. I was going backwards. Apologies. Here we go. This is the launch from the top. We felt like we were good. It was time to go from the top, and this one went so much better. Here I am soaping down. I love these photographs. This is Nick Plauché at the bottom taking photographs of me as I'm flying through the air. Oh, so perfect. Here is that launch. Now, I don't want you to think that Jamie didn't do any of the hard work, because he did. Here is Jamie's jump. He uses a rope. Very clever. It didn't even occur to me. You'll also notice that when Jamie's flying through the air, he's totally silent.
Here we go, and
And watch for the camera. The camera falls off his helmet and films him after he lands. So the camera fell all the way to the bottom, and we watched the footage. About 40 minutes later, you can hear breathing, and then our safety diver, Don, shows up in his scuba gear and picks up the camera, and that's how we still have that footage. Jamie's launch wasn't as good as mine, so I was definitely going to be the one to do all the dives. But there was a problem, which was that I was feeling pretty good about my jumps. In fact, I would say I was overconfident. And so that was the end of the first day. The end of the first day was just to make sure that the rig was safe to use. The second day was to do at least 3 jumps to see if I landed in the same location. That was all. Just 3 jumps in a row, see if I landed in the safe location. And here is my first jump on the second day. Already, I'm doing something different. I'm stretching my feet out to the booms because I think maybe I can guide myself. I'm adding a parameter when it already worked, and I suffered for that. When I say that kind of landing hurts, I mean it gives you an instant headache that lasts all day long. Also, the water was incredibly cold. And in addition to that, my camera crew's boat, their motor had broken just before I did this launch. And the only motor they had on the boat was one of those little 12-volt battery motors for an inflatable. So they were putting over to me while I was freezing cold and had a headache in the water. I was really, really cranky. Here is another view of the same. But you can see our experimental setup. We have the rope set up for a guide, and we have 2 buoys on it, and we're using that to triangulate. Here's another ignominious jump. So now, I'm not feeling very good at all. My body hurts, I'm cold, I'm cranky. Every single time we do this, I have to trudge up this hill in the dirt and get to the top, and I'm tired. It's late in the day, and I'm standing there waiting for the final jump. And there I am. And so you can see, we've placed the target at the end. This is the final jump. I'm going to try and do the target. And the target is just some foam pool noodles that we taped together. We didn't want me to get hurt by hitting the target. We wanted it to break in case I hit it. But I may look heroic here, I'm not sure. However, I did not feel very good. And Nick Plachet, our stunt coordinator, trudges to the top of the hill and surprises me by being there when I get there. Here's Nick, and he talks a little like a surfer dude, because he is a surfer dude from California. And he says, "Do I have anything to tell you?" "No." By the way, I am not exaggerating Nick's dialogue here at all. He says, "I have a question for you. Are you a stuntman?" Because that's what I tell the crews in LA. I tell them Adam is the real deal. He and Jamie can do all the same stunts you guys do. They are stuntmen in their hearts. "So Adam," he says, "it's not about what's happening here. It's only about what happens here." And then he says, "The only thing I want you thinking when you hit the water is, does my director want another take?" And then he says, "I'll see you at the bottom, dude." And he walks to the bottom. Now, Nick is a 3rd-generation stuntman for a reason. He knew exactly what to say to get my head in the right space. And the final launch, you will see, already right there, I can see that everything's going great. The only muscle that is tense is my neck, and that's just to make sure I'm starting off in the right direction. But you'll see in a second, my hand peeks up above. None of my other limbs are trying to do anything to guide this. And now when I hit the catenary curve at the bottom and head off the ramp, my head goes down and I leave it down, and I am a pure arrow in this shot. I am on a perfect trajectory. I can feel it. I know that this one is going really good. And again, like the first one now, I'm so happy that my body can actually do these things under this kind of duress. I realize I'm going to hit the target soon, so I spread out my arms to have a really nice landing, and you'll see. Oh my gosh, I love this shot. You'll see when I hit the target, I don't even break the pool noodle apart. It is an absolutely perfect landing. Like I said, we didn't know how to make a science show. There was no science show like MythBusters that decided to take the scientific method and turn it into a narrative device. There was nothing equivalent to us when we began. But we slowly figured out how to do it, and we slowly expanded the definition of the kind of material we could tackle. And there we go. To give you some of my ideas on innovation, the first thing we learned about this process is that innovation is messy. And I mean messy in a very specific sense. There is a cultural bias to thinking of science as a discipline of order and art as a discipline of chaos. I know that there are finer grades within that, but that is definitely the way culture thinks. Like, scientists are not creative and artists are not scientific. I think this is completely wrong-headed. The scientific method is one of the most human and creative endeavors we have ever invented. The very first step of the scientific method, form a hypothesis. Where does that come from? It comes from here. It comes from experience. It comes from intuition. Actually, it's self-generating. The more hypotheses you come up with, the more you can come up with. So I think of science as a deeply creative discipline, and it's really important to recognize that. It's hard work. And I don't mean hard work like working long hours necessarily, because on MythBusters, they wanted so many episodes. We filmed year-round. Most television shows have an on-season and an off-season. They film for 6 or 8 months, and then everyone gets a few months off so they can go make movies or whatever. MythBusters filmed year-round for 13 years. Now, when the show was a hit, we had a little bit of power, and the only thing I ever did with that power, I got them to pay me more money and things like that, but the main thing that we did with that power was we expanded our shooting schedule so we had more time to do these myths. An average television show films in 7 days. An episode of CSI or Law & Order films in 7 days flat. On MythBusters, we had between 12 and 15 days per episode to film. And because we were filming so constantly, we actually kept fairly regular hours. We worked 8:30 to 5:30 every day. I'm proud to say over 13 years of making a television show, I never missed dinner with my kids, which a lot of my friends in Hollywood are astounded by. It's collective and collaborative. And it doesn't even have to be, well, so Jamie and I, we are not friends. We have never been friends. We have never had a meal alone together. And we don't really like hanging out with each other. But boy, do we love making stuff and solving engineering problems together. I will tell you, there were moments with Jamie where I felt such a flow state with another human being that I have never and might never feel again. We did a myth about Pirates of the Caribbean where we're under the water trying to hold a boat down that's filled with air, which is a very dangerous thing to do in a swimming pool. And Jamie and I were actually the only two we felt safe being under the water when we were doing it. And in doing this really dangerous stunt under the water in this swimming pool, we had no loss of communication with each other. I knew what he meant when he pointed over there. He knew what I meant when I gave a gesture. It was delightful. It's surprising. People ask us if we were disappointed in the results of any myths, and the answer is we were agnostic. We didn't care what the results were. We just wanted to build a methodology we could stand by. And I recognize that MythBusters gets a lot of crap over the years for only doing one version of an experiment and then saying, it's busted or it's confirmed. That's television. I understand that. But we really did try and build methodologies we could be proud of. And most of all, if it's really working, it's fun. I have never met a working scientist who did not love their job, love their work. Even if their work was making little t-shirt diapers to collect bat guano so they could investigate the parasitic infection of a cave or something like that, they loved their work. And I love pointing out to people that science, which most people think of as an avocation, is a really delightful vocation. And over the 13 years we made MythBusters, it was hard, it was concerning, it was exhausting, and I have rarely had so much fun in my life. I thank you for your time.